by Sprite. Just kidding. It's brought to you by Spite. Sprite without the R. It's time for the 2020 FIA GTC season. And more specifically, the Manufacturer Series, because F off with that Nations Cup nonsense. We want to go to World Tours with a chance. That's why the cool kids stick to Manufacturer Series. With me today on this very special 17th or 18th episode of the Turisbros podcast, or a couple of the tightest bros you could ever ask to be bros with, I have Tristan Roadbeef Bayless.
What's up?
And Richard Outlawquadrant Castro.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. We are so happy to have you here today with us, Richard, because you are the creator and the holder of the sacred texts. And that sacred text is the manufacturer pick master spreadsheet.
The Raceta Zone. Raceta Stone? There we go.
The Raceta Stone. I love it. Oh, man. Couldn't have planned that. I think you need to get a little bit closer to the mic there, Tristan, if you can, when you're comfortable. It just sounds a little farther away, but you're good. But yeah, that's the purpose of this podcast. We're testing cars. We're testing attitudes. And just generally testing ourselves. We're looking at the landscape of who's picked what. Where can we go as mere mortals? And yeah, there's been a lot of interesting picks. Have there not? Well, but we'll get into that in a minute. First, I wanted to dive right into asking Rich all about what he thinks, and then we'll go to Tristan after. I wanted to get your basic kind of, your basic take overall on what this season kind of has in store for us, how you think PDs reacted to, or changed, evolved the format over from last year and such. So, Rich, if you just want to give your 2 cents or 50,000 cents, go. We don't. There's no limit. It goes as long as you want, and just spill your guts about what's happening for this 2020 season.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's just so many topics to cover, and you know, if I was a little bit more prepared, I would have my 20 bullet points on everything that changed since the last season, but I'll try to condense it to as much as I possibly can, or as much as I can remember. So I'm not really in any priority, but first thing that comes to mind is obvious, something that I know is a lot of people's minds, is the penalty system and how that is a constantly evolving animal, so to speak. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that it's not in the greatest state right now. There was a point in which I think a lot of people would say it was about as close as tolerable as it could have been. Then they basically turned it off, and it became bedlam out on the racetrack. And now we're kind of to where they turned it back on again, but we're in a situation in which if you're the car being overtaken and you're on the outside and you get contact in the rear quarter panel, that seems to be the trigger. So taken and then you get contact in that area, then that outside car just being overtaken or attempted to be overtaken is going to get a penalty. So that's certainly caused a lot of frustration, and we're kind of hoping that there was going to be a patch before the start of the regular season to address that and a lot of other issues out there, but that as far as we can tell, there's nothing, and there could be something in the horizon within the next week or so, but at this juncture we're going to have to roll into the regular season with that penalty system. And I already know that tempers has flared because of that, and I can't lie, like even I've been caught up in that temper tantrum with the penalty system, but that's just something we have to deal with. Number one. Number two is a topic that is quite hot with especially a lot of the top end drivers, is the slipstream, which I forget which patch it was, but it went from, I want to say the range was about 0.75 seconds behind to almost a second and a half, and just the pull that the car behind gets is it's almost like a constant DRS system, and the impact has been, as far as from off the top of my mind, is twofold. Number one, you have basically when we go into qualifying, especially when you go higher up in the split, having an extra tenth or two over the competition, it is absolutely massive. And no joke, you could literally be on a combination and you could be 2/10 off the leader, and you could be starting P15. It is that tight. And with the way the slipstream is right now, we basically see, even in combos in which you think, oh, it's just a short course, tight corners, you don't want the dirty air. Even in combinations like that, you constantly see in the top, if you ever look at the top split room, you're going to see all these people trying to line up in a train, trying to get a lap with slipstream. Because you try to do a lap on your own, if you are the top of the top, you might be able to get away with it, but in a lot of cases, if you don't get slipstream on your lap, you're going to be starting so far back. And with just the way these races are just not long enough to climb yourself up the field, if you don't get the slipstream in qualifying, then you're pretty much wasting your... No, I'm not going to say it's a complete waste of time racing, but if you're looking for big points, then it's like you start P15, and it's like you're pretty much just not lose DR and then go on to the next one. And that has also caused frustration.
Yeah.
And then when you go to the race, number two, what we've seen is that slipstream has not only strategies in terms of what you, because it's becoming to where just being in someone's slipstream is more important than, doing your own strategy or whatever, trying to get clean air and whatnot. And on number two, it certainly has helped if you're in a handling car. That slipstream will pretty much, in a lot of cases, it often negates the advantage a power car has. And so you can, and there's been examples of people, like for example, using the Renault in Group 3, and they could just sit behind someone in a really fast car, and they could just stay behind them the whole race. And then the Renault can literally pass this power car at the end and win the race. And that was not possible with the old slipstream system. At the old one, at best you were kind of losing a tenth or two, and then you would eventually break the toe. But now it's to where you could be half a second slower per lap than another person, if you're running solo laps. But then you're in slipstream, it's like, bam, you completely negate that advantage. And combined with the penalty system, I think that's caused a lot of friction, because now you can't pull away from everyone. You have situations where you feel like these guys, they get a really good lap, and then your lap was compromised, and so you're stuck behind them. You got, and again, back to the penalty system and how, okay, now you have to be aggressive, you got to overtake people, you hit people, you give them penalties. It's just, it's gonna. I can't lie. The start of the season might be a little bit rough, and we kind of already saw a little bit of that in the preseason.
Oh yeah, people are out for blood. They're very, it's kind of like when a dog finally catches a car, they don't know what to do with it. These people that are up there and have always fought super hard trying to get faster, and they're finally up there because of some random qualifying. They just act like jerks. It's weird. They act extremely entitled right away, but yeah, we could go on about the psychology of that forever, but I think the first few rounds are going to be rough, but things should settle out. This whole coronavirus thing is kind of interesting, because I feel like we're going to have a lot more practice time in our hands. We're going to see some different faces toward the top, possibly. Who knows?
Oh yeah, it's gone from try hard to really try hard.
Yeah. And Tristan, you care to throw in some of your opinions yet, or are you still pretty focused on the driving?
I agree for the most part with about everything that Rich raised. Draft is just a little too powerful. Maybe they want it deliberately so it's like it's an artificial kind of make sure everyone's close element. original purpose of DRS, but I don't know. We have to make do with what they choose, right? So,
yeah, we're still playing the game.
yeah, it is a different element. I at least maybe they just kind of gave up with BOP testing and decided, screw it, let's just increase the strength of the slipstream so that a Garbo car like the Renault or the Z4 can keep up in most situations.
Yeah.
No offense to Renault, but your car's Garbo.
Garbo, the capital G.
Well, maybe not. I mean, I don't think they're terrible. It's just that I know the Group 3 is quite slow, but, you know, when Mikhail can sit behind someone, because he picked that in the preseason in one of the rounds, was like 100% power combination, and I think he ended up getting P2, like he was right behind the leader who had, I forget which car he had, but he was able to stay with him the entire race. It's like, I know it's Mikhail, but even, I mean, come on, it's some things it's just impossible to believe, and yet that's what's happening. But again, it's we'll get into it eventually, but you know, because of that, you know, it's one of those things you have to factor in when you pick your menu, because you know, you have to wonder, you know, if you're good in slipstream or not, because I know personally I'm not that great in it. Like, that's why I tend to struggle with qualifying. Well, other than bidding my own laps, but now it's like these people are really getting good on, especially with me. Like, they love finding me and then just getting my slipstream. So they end up starting ahead of me, and it's like, well, I do all the work, and then they get they get the fruits of all my labor. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, Red Bull Ring, I was doing my qualifying, and I was trying to, you know, I was kind of conservative. I didn't want to cross the line with like 4 seconds left or anything like that, so I thought I was going pretty slow, and I thought I'd be able to easily find a gap. But I ran into that huge mountain of drivers all waiting for someone to go in the last couple corners, and I was just super shocked. I mean, I had heard about it and stuff, but I didn't know how bad it was. So when I saw the pack, I slowed down for a second, and then I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to go. And they kind of all sensed me and that I was going to go for a hot lap, like right then and there. So the pack just accelerated. I almost got away from them. It was mostly TTG right behind me, like a group of them. And I just barely, like, if I had just taken off maybe a little bit sooner, I would have, yeah, been out of the draft. But they just had the very back of my. And what the worst part there is that you know, it's even more powerful the farther back you go. So that would really trip me out. Sometimes I wouldn't realize how far. I'd be like 1.8 seconds away from a car going into like a fast corner, and I'd be like, oh crap, too fast, too fast. This is ridiculous. I don't want to have to deal with it this way. The sense of speed isn't that good, so it's pretty frustrating. But yeah. So we can transition though from that into, I'll talk a little bit about what we're doing here to those watching the stream. So Tristan threw up a server, a lobby rather, where we're just going around in different cars, just trying them out. It's a shakedown, so to speak. And yeah, we're here at not Maggiore, but a track that's pretty good for testing. Goodwood, yes. So we're just trying
this is no joke. This is funny because they put out this track quite a while ago. I'm trying to remember. I still don't think I've ever run a single lap around here.
Me either until today, weirdly enough. So it's good. It's good for good testing, benchmark, and all that, I guess. Well, not benchmark for me, but Tristan's certainly throwing up some good ones. Oh, Urky. I'm glad Urky's in here. Hello, what's up, guys? Yeah, I like the Citroen. I drove it in the very first manufacturer season, 2018, I think it was, yes. I only drove it for a few rounds because I decided to focus entirely on Nations Cup. So, I don't know. It was alright. Still alright now. Group 4 I do like more. But I'm not like a Group 4 guy, if you know what I mean. I have way more fun in Group 3, so it would have been nice to be able to have a solid car for Group 3 races, but I mean, you can make this car solid. It takes a very special hand. You have to treat it very nicely, especially the rears. You have to. It's a good trainer car if you dedicate time to it, I feel like.
Pretty good car. But like you said, it slaps you on the wrist.
Yeah. It's like having a French girlfriend. She doesn't put up with shit. It's high maintenance. Just kidding. That's very generalistic. I was just joking. Please don't hurt me.
Well, there goes our French viewership.
Yeah,
Sorry.
exactly.
I'm sorry.
I take no responsibility. It's all your fault, Eddie.
I was merely joking. Oh, there goes the one other guy. All right. But French cars, hell yeah. Yellow. Citroen's not a yellow car though. I have to lose this yellow. But Tristan, what have you been trying out and liking and stuff to be as you know, dance around the issue as much as you want. You don't have to reveal anything.
Well, I'm in the Vet right now, and the Vet's a good handling car. It kind of lacks top ends. Doesn't want to turn in high-speed stuff very well. I mean, I feel like I should try to give the Renault some credit since I kind of pooped on it earlier. And it will do sort of everything you ask it to and beyond. And that is tricky on a race distance where the car just will flop sideways if you have a lapse of concentration. You know, having something that can kind of save you reliably and consistently with, you know, understeer beyond a certain slip angle is a useful thing. And the Ferrari, the Renault, the Audi, and to a degree the Citroen, and the 911 are unforgiving in that way. So, you know, they're pretty fast over one lap, especially the Ferrari. But the Ferrari is like, you know, lap 3, it's going to be smoking its tires. So, you know, I think the most potential right off the bat is probably with the mid-engine cars, but they're going to demand a very disciplined driving style to get the most out of them. What am I liking right now? Toyota feels pretty good because it's good everywhere. You know, I can't knock the 911. That's like my baby. Aside from that, I don't know.
Well, it was your baby until someone took it.
Well, you know, maybe I'll take it back. I'm feeling a bit like Charles Lindbergh, and I gotta find the kidnapper and you know, enact some justice. But then again, maybe I just need to let that one fly and pick another brand. It's kind of hard to say, and that's the whole purpose of this server, and I suppose of this dynamic podcast. There's a lot of factors to weigh, a lot of considerations, because it's not just the car's performance, it's like who are you competing against in the other regions. And we got Lloyd's and Hazal and Miyazono and Loirat and Simmons all in Porsche confirmed. And that's very formidable, to say the least.
That's a death trap. There's no way around it. That is the brutal. That's a brutal lineup. I do not envy anyone that even thinks about going up against those lineup of drivers. That's good luck to you.
Thanks. And I've said a lot. I welcome the challenge of a failure because there's always something more to learn from a failure than from a victory. But that's also maybe kind of quantitative easing for my ego. But you know, we'll see how it goes. Last year was very successful for me, and of course I would like to go one better at like finals or see if I can make it to a tour just on nations alone. Because the last time I did that was Vegas in 18 and choked super hard in that one.
Oh yeah,
I'd like to make up for that one still.
That would be cool, man. I definitely believe you could make it a Nations Cup if you kind of put all your eggs in there.
Yeah.
But you're pretty good at racing a lot of different races. Like I need to focus on one. I can't do the whole, you know, Tuesday, Wednesday night Nations to Manu to Supra.
No.
Well, if we don't have to go to work every day,
True.
that kind of takes care of that problem, doesn't
Well,
it?
yes and no, because a lot of people might be in that situation, and so that's not something to look forward to.
It's just my stamp collection takes up a lot of time, even when I'm off. You know.
Yeah, I've seen your stamp collection. It's very impressive. You're
Thanks.
gonna have to rent out a second house for it.
Eventually, yeah, the second house option kind of fell apart with the virus and all of that, but we can always try again next year. But yeah, so going into picks, if you haven't checked it out, you should go to the gtplanet.net forums, go into, or just look up Outlaw Quadrant and look at his posts, and you'll find a Google Doc that he has put together very kindly for us, and it features a list of confirmed driver picks for Manufacturer Series in 2020. We can rifle through those. I'll list them out and then we'll talk about them. I do want to start with Porsche because
well, before you go, let me
Yeah.
just say thank you to everyone that has helped contribute to that sheet, because especially because this year it was a little bit short notice to try to put it together, and there's a lot of people, Jumas, VLX GTR, Schnick, Adam Tompkins, a lot of people. There are a lot of people that they're still out there trying to help to put it together. So thank you, everyone, and hopefully we'll have the bulk of the names in by tomorrow, just to get an idea. And really, what we're looking for, kind of the general idea is that if you go into a top split room or even like top of second split, just to see kind of an idea of what the fields are going to look like. And also, I do notice that in certain regions, like some of them tend to pick, they tend to lean towards one menu towards the other. And, that's kind of the things that you kind of want to know, especially, like, for example, with North America with preseason, there are a lot of mid-tier drivers, mid to high-tier drivers that picked Mercedes, and so whenever you jumped in a race, it's like, oh my goodness, you gotta go against like the fleet of Mercedes, or I'm trying to think of another menu that was quite popular. I forget, but there's always that one or two menu that seems to be quite popular, and that becomes problematic when you're trying to earn points, and then that one particular combo is really good for a specific menu, and so all those guys with that menu show up in your race, and so it's like, oh my god, I'm trying to gain points, but then it's like I gotta find like 8 Porsches or something to that effect. So even if you're not like top split guy, it's kind of nice to just have names out there just to show that, hey, there are people trying to use this menu. Like, I think there's a guy in Peugeot right now, which I was shocked, like, oh, there's a Peugeot driver, good luck to you, because you're gonna need it.
Yeah. It seems like there's less room for drivers than ever, as far as or there's less picks, viable picks, and all that. What I did find interesting though is people seem to be more into the MRs. Like there's more strong Lambo drivers, more, and it's obviously the Honda is huge this year. It's the flavor of the month or the year, especially in preseason. But yeah, so it seems like people are more willing to go for the MR tip. I mean, they seem to want to stay away from it last year because of the tire wear issue, right? What would you say was the reason that like we switched over to this new paradigm of MR acceptability?
That is a good question. I think part of it, I think that some of the top higher tier drivers showed that the Lambo was actually not that bad of a car, and I also do think that PD going with a little bit lower tire wear rates in the more recent combos, I think that kind of helped out the MRs, because last year was, I'm trying to remember, the first half of the schedule, because that one was only 20 races, so we basically had 2 stages. Stage 1, the bulk of them were either it shredded your tires or it completely ate up your fuel tank. So we had one or both, and so a lot of the MRs are not that good in that department. And the second half was mostly flat out, and I think that's when I noticed that a lot of people were picking Honda for second half of the schedule. That's when the Honda started showing up, and then I think one of the higher end drivers started to drove the Lambo for one season, and they showed, hey, this car has potential. And I think it's kind of a bit of a herd mentality. It's like they see, oh, this car is doing well, I'm going to go out and try it. And so you kind of see that flood of people saying, "Hey, this car did really well," and then everyone's like, "Oh, let's go pick it," type of mentality. Or it can work the opposite way too. Which actually that happened with Porsche last year because there was a BOP change, which I don't remember if it helped out other menus and hurt Porsche indirectly, or it hit Porsche directly and kind of. I forget what it was, but I think somebody said, "Oh my God, they ruined the Porsche and everything," and I think everyone just bailed on Porsche, which was, it worked out for certain people.
Indeed.
Yes, but now obviously this year it's the complete opposite. It attracted the top guys, and yeah, that door is all but shut. Not to say that we can't knock down one of those guys, but again, like I said earlier, good luck.
Yeah, for sure. I posted a link to the Outlaw list. So the link is bit.ly/outlaw list in all lower caps. And if you go to that list, you should be able to see the Google spreadsheet so you guys can read along. Okay, class, are you ready? First up in Porsche, it is a very stacked contingent. Last year, Tristan really made the difference because people bailed on Porsche because of a little, because suddenly the rear end got nervous or whatever it was, freaked people out, they all left because there was a chance. They gave a bailout right before the season started. But now, locked in for Porsche in the 2020 season, we have in North America Lloyd's Elite, the Canadian first season Nations Cup Monaco finalist, generally seen as an extremely fast driver. He's on Laser, the team this year, or since last year. And he's going to be a very formidable driver in that car for the 2020 season. Then in South America, we have Loirat confirmed so far. Still no sign of you'll have to forgive me, but that is the Chilean that competed last year or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Loirat.
Angel,
yes. And then in Europe, we have Lightning. That was a big drop, bombshell on Twitter. He confirmed it.
That was also a betrayal, by the way.
Yeah. Because there is, in 2020, a lightning rule, a slow brew rule, if you may. Last year, Lightning, Mikhail Hazal put in a Alonso-level drive, pushing a shitty car into these realms of excellence where it should not have been, and he ended up getting nothing for it because which regions were they, Rich? That the only ones that really did put up numbers? Was it just two?
It was EMEA, it was Oceania and Asia. But one important thing to point out, one of the big changes in the rules was last season. So you basically have 5 regions. Last year, the points, the manufacturer points for all 5 regions counted towards the total score, which hurt Subaru because they had the 3 top-tier drivers, but then the other 2 regions basically had, I don't know who they were, but they could not score any points whatsoever. I'm pretty sure they tried their best, but it's kind of an odd dynamic because the way the system works, only the top 3 drivers get to go to the live events, and the other 2 they don't get anything, and so there's there's not much of an incentive. There's really no incentive. Like, okay, why am I fighting for my menu if I don't even get to go? And so this year they changed the rules so that it's only going to be the top 3 points that are going to be counting. And so that situation where, I need to have a driver in each region, that no longer applies. You really only need 3. And so I think I called this. I said that there's very possible you're going to have some, because a lot of the top tier guys know each other. And so you can likely see a lot of them banding together. Like one guy from one region and one from another region. You just need 3 people. You 3 can agree. Okay, let's all band together. We'll pick this menu, and you don't need to worry about the other regions anymore because again, they changed the rules, so now those points don't matter. So if you look at last season, if the rules from this year applied to last year, I think they would have been the 4th in points. But because of the rules last year, they were 13th or 14th place. So big change right there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, so it's funny, ironic, or whatever that Mikhail has a way better opportunity set up for him in order to push Subaru up there and get it to a live event, and then he ends up just going for Porsche.
Right, and he even the way that he did it was a little bit like, oh, did you have to do it that way? But hold on, I'll link it in the chat because I just had to meme it in a way. I'll put in the link to it.
And by the way, I'm really terrible at driving and talking at the same time, so don't mind my
It's definitely one of those things that you need to practice. In fact, that's why I started streaming on my races and having the mic just so that I can get used to it. It could sometimes be a little bit distracting, but yeah, it certainly does take a little bit of practice to kind of do 2 things at once.
But yeah, Porsche is stacked this year. Oh, we're doing Group 4 now, or what?
I just opened it up.
Oh, nice.
Sorry that I didn't warn you.
Oh, you're good. It's your server, God.
Oh, and just a note, the names on the spreadsheet. That's we're kind of going off what other people are saying. It's certainly possible that especially if they haven't actually signed yet. Names could switch around here and there.
Definitely.
But I think for the most part, I don't think anyone has really done I'm going to sign for this, and then they change their mind and do someone else. But that doesn't stop people from. I think I already see one on the sheet. I'm not going to point it out. I think there's one that might have created another account to switch to pick up a different menu, but I don't. I know that PD had put it in the rules, stating that they're not going to put up with certain things, but I don't know if that counts. So. We might see a little bit of that. People saying, "Oh, this guy picked this value. I'm just going to create another account." But it is a little bit late in the game because the next first race starts on. Well, actually, it starts tomorrow for. Is it tomorrow for Nations? Yeah, it's tomorrow for Nations.
Are you on Sport Hards there, Chief?
I might.
It looks like you're on Sport Hards.
After doing this for like 3 hours, I needed to. Blow off some steam with some drifting.
Nice. So who else do we have in the Porsche team there? Rich.
Let's see. I believe we have the same person from Oceania last year that's competing.
Matt. Yep.
Simmons.
Yeah, Matt. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, the Porsche is completely stacked. So if you're not worried about qualifying, then I can understand why they would pick Porsche, just because just about every iteration of the game, I wasn't around for the beta, so I can't speak for how Porsche was in the beta, but Porsche's always been a solid manufacturer. Like, doesn't matter the combo, you can, at the very least, you're going to be average.
Right.
So it's kind of like a good all-rounder car, and the 911 has always been one of the few quote-unquote MR cars that doesn't have the tire shredding issue like the other MR cars do. Which I know the tire wear's gone down, but even now it is a little bit of an issue.
Damn.
And kind of, just to trail off a little bit, I think, taking into account the whole issue going around in the world right now, I know that a lot of people have been speculating on whether the tours are even going to happen this
Yeah,
year.
great,
And
great topic. Yeah, that's definitely a big
yeah, and
thing.
just to not to be a Debbie Downer or anything, because you don't really know what's going to happen, but somehow they got the first one off, which is considering how well. Considering how at the F1 race almost that was ready to go and then last second, so that easily could have happened with Sydney, but they somehow got that first one through. Nürburgring is, I mean, I'll be shocked if that one actually goes,
Yeah.
just because it's in May, and it's connected to a race which may be delayed or outright canceled, and it wouldn't make sense in that regard to even have that one, and so it kind of, I think it might affect decision making. Like if you really want to qualify for a live event, I think, if none of this has happened, then you could have had the idea of like, oh, we have the schedule for the first 10 races, and you could have made a selection purely based on those first 10 races, which in fact that's exactly what I did last season, because I just wanted to make a tour. And Peugeot, just based on the circumstances of the settings and the combinations and testing, doing a little bit of testing, is like, oh, Peugeot could be that shocker manufacturer that gets in solely because of Stage 1, which thankfully we did. Go Peugeot, I love you guys out there. Unfortunately, Stage 2, when the Stage 2 schedule came out, I realized we were pretty much we're all but done, just because those the combo just didn't suit us. And so going back to the topic, so to me, I would feel like I would kind of go under the assumption that you can't really think about purely Stage 1 at all, just because Stage 1 is tied to Nürburgring, and considering that event is, the status of that is very murky right now. I mean, at the very, very minimum, you would say, okay, maybe it's going to be World Tour 3, which I don't know where that might be, and who knows if even that one's going to go through. And so you start to realize that, how after 10 rounds it's going to only count X number of rounds. Well, it might end up being a situation in which we might not even have anything except the finals. So I would say that would be like a pragmatic way of looking at it, to say, okay, just maybe work under the assumption that they're only going to have the finals and no other World Tours, and that means that all the rounds are going to count towards your 10. But the problem is you only know Stage 1 schedule, which is a little bit frustrating, because ideally you like to know the entire schedule, and then you can pick your menu based on the entire schedule, but we don't have that luxury, which
Exactly. That's
is
definitely
kind
an
of good and kind of
intentional thing.
bad. So I think, like, the selection of Porsche, it kind of makes sense, because Porsche, they're going to be at least average. Like at the very worst, they're going to be like an average car at any combo, and so you're kind of covering yourself. Like it kind of is a good all-rounder car, and so you don't have to worry about what the next combo is going to look like, whether there's going to be any bop changes. Like they should be okay.
For sure. And speaking of your old team, I definitely wanted to extend my encouragement to Jaguar for this season. I know you were in Jaguar as well back in the day, and they've got Defsun on their squad, and so I hope they can make some big things happen, get a podium at least in the World Tour, in a World Tour, or whatever ends up being this year. So, yeah, why don't we list off, we'll use this as an opportunity to list off the Jaguar drivers for the season. You want to throw that out for us, Rich?
Let's see, Jaguar, as you had mentioned, we have Defsun for North America. Actually, we're a little bit lagging in that one, because we only have Defsun in North America and Hellfire from South America. So you have one Defsun who switched over from Lexus, and Hellfire represented Jaguar last year. So I don't have, as far as I know, I don't have anyone else listed for Jaguars, which is a little bit surprising. I'm guessing I think maybe people are a little bit tentative about picking Jaguar just because they did get the power nerf in
Right.
the latest BOP for Group 4. So, that one thing I wanted to mention, as long as it's top of my mind about BOP changes, because I actually thought that they were going to do a BOP change for Group 3 because they did one for Group 4, and I was a little bit surprised that they didn't. But I wouldn't be surprised if they do a mid-season BOP change for Group 3.
Yeah.
So it's another one of those factors that you got to keep in mind. Like there is a possibility they'll do a BOP change for Group 3 because it's not like they haven't done it before. They did it last season. If anyone remembers, I think they did it between the stages. They I forget who. I do remember like it helped out Audi a lot. I remember that much about it because Audi was kind of like outside looking in, and then the BOP changes came in, and that really helped them.
Yeah, that was definitely huge for them. Yeah, I don't balance the performance. There's no way to know. That's the one thing. That's another aspect that keeps people nervous, and also it has some people that are a little bit more on the gambling side. There's certain players that may be picking duddy cars in the hopes that they may get a BOP, bump in the future. But yeah, I think although Jaguar was reduced in its performance, I still feel that it's going to be pretty viable, especially in the Group 4 side. But I've seen Defsun do some amazing things with the Group 3 car already in the preseason, so yeah, it can handle itself pretty well, the Group 3 on a power course. Stuff like Spa 2, I guess. What else do we have there, Richard? What's another interesting manufacturer that you'd like to list off some names for?
Oh, let's take a look. I'm just trying to look down through the list because I said I don't think we have a full roster. I know that Mazda has Akagi in Asia, but I believe Akagi always picks Mazda. And I know I'm going off of memory because I think he's picked Mazda every single year, and he just seems to destroy everyone in Asia with the Mazda, and he never gets the Mazda in because he never has any support. But he does have Storm in EMEA, and he is really fast. So, I think Mazda could be a. I don't know about other regions. Like I got a few names in other regions, but I don't know if they're going to be able to score enough points. But they definitely do have some drivers in Mazda. So obviously the Group 4 car is pointless. I haven't driven that Group 4 car very often, but everything that I've heard about it is just completely, even with the slipstream and everything, is a completely useless car. So. Mazda is all about the Group 3 car, which is, I've seen it do really well. I remember like Interlagos, it seemed to do really well. And again, Akagi seems to work magic with that car. So apparently there's definitely something going on with that Group 3 Mazda. And so that could be a sleeper pick. Although, again, you're kind of banking everything on the Group 3 car. Which is, some menus are going to be like that actually, where, your strategy could be pick a good all-rounder, or some others might be more, okay, you have to give up on one group and focus on the other, because there are some menus that are like that, and so that's kind of a valuable strategy. That's another way that you can get in if you can figure out which cars are really good in a certain class, and then just focus on those races, which would be kind of good if you don't have all the time to race, and therefore you could just skip the races you're not good at, and then because you only need only the top 10 rounds are going to count in the end, and so if you have the perspective like, hey, I just want to focus on getting to the finals, then it could work, because then hopefully they'll distribute it 20 Group 3 and 20 Group 4 races. But
Yeah.
that is also a bit unpredictable because they didn't do that last season either. I think they ended up having more Group 4 races, to my recollection.
Yeah, and to be honest, Group 4 is not my flavor of preference. But, yeah, I don't know, there's something about the higher weight and stuff that I use. I like to use it as an excuse for things, but that's a whole different show. Some Group 4 races have been fun, though. The Red Bull one could have been fun, but it was a disaster, so I'm glad it's Group 3 in this first stage. The rain race, though, that's going to be a big one. What cars do you guys predict are going to be pretty handy in the wet for that Red Bull?
Sorry there.
Hey.
Well, at Salzburg, all of the mid-engine cars had a huge
Oh,
advantage
yeah.
at the wet track because of their ability to put the power down out of like turn 2 and 3 and the hairpins essentially. And the only front-engine rear-wheel drive car that had a chance was Mercedes. Everyone else was like 2 seconds.
Oh yeah, I remember
slower.
that.
So that's really going to be a mid-engine favoring track.
I feel like
I haven't looked closely at the tire wear. If there's a lot of tire wear, then maybe that's an equalizer.
I feel like
No, I don't think there was.
Oh, okay. It's going to be a wash then.
yeah, I feel like the Mazda could do well there because it's so stable. But
Yeah,
maybe not.
I'm trying to remember because I was actually I did that rain race in Austria. To my recollection, yeah, I think what Tristan said was correct. It was basically the MR cars that were the best. Specifically, like especially if you were a non-turbo car. That was kind of the big thing. If you didn't have a turbo in your car, that made things a lot easier for you than if you have a turbo car. Definitely not 100% not the GTR, the Group 3 GTR. That is one of the worst cars to drive in the rain because that thing is just trying to kill you at every single corner. Because I tried it one time that had that combo in an exhibition, and I think I finished like P18 or something. It was utterly hopeless. I was gonna say that that's another way to think about it. Like there might be some rain races. Oh, there's already one, and it could be more. And so maybe pick a car that's good in the rain. But I don't think there's enough. I forget how many layouts there are with rain. I don't think there's enough to really make that a viable way to get in because you're only gonna get I don't know 2 or 3 rounds with rain, possibly.
Yeah, second
You're right.
stage.
There's like, I think
we don't
there's
know
only
yet.
3 tracks.
Yeah, I don't remember how many layouts have rain available for them. I'm just trying to think because I know Spa has it now.
Spa does have it, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So at least so possibly you get like at least one more rain race, and if they do like a mid stage updating, we get like 3 new. Oh, Tokyo East has rain as well.
Eesh. So what's been the most surprising pick in your estimation? Were you pretty shocked when Fire left Nissan?
Yes. Well, personally, yeah, that's the big shocker for me because he did really well in that Nissan. Basically, anytime that he showed up, he dominated and won the race, or got a P2. Yeah, so I'm not sure why he switched over. Maybe he thought that maybe he thinks that there's going to be a nerf to the Group 3 Nissan, which is certainly possible. Or maybe it's just the fact, maybe just the combos are really good for the Nissan for the preseason and it kind of inflated the results of it. Or maybe just he thinks there's not enough support, but then again, it finished 3rd in the standings, so it's not like he won't have the support. Also, I mean, the Group 4 BOP changes, it didn't touch the Group 4 GTR, but it did make other cars weaker, and so by proxy, it's not as bad of a car. But I mean, I have to be honest, like pretty much all the points it's kind of similar with the Mazda, like except there's a little bit more hope in the Group 4 car. But yeah, all the points would have to be earned with the Group 3 Nissan. But I do know that a lot of people, I think just about everyone seems to hate that Group 3 GTR. I'm like one of the rare. I don't know. Maybe it's just such a weird, crooked car, and I just happen to love that. I just happen to love that car. I don't know why. And I think everyone can tell that I love that car because I use it all the time, and I do really, really well in it.
Yeah, stick with what you like. Oh, Outlaw, we'll be right back. He's taking a commercial break. But, yeah, he is quite handy in that Nissan. It's like, just stick with... some people right now are racking their brains, trying to be like, maybe I should take on a different personality for this season. But, you know, just go with what you like.
I agree with you. I mean, there's herd mentality, and then you got to go with what's comfortable. You know,
yeah.
If you don't find the right balance, then you're just going to be kind of.
And he's back.
Yeah, I told you. I don't know why this happens with my party chat. If anyone out there know, like, why? This also happens with my connection with Gran Turismo Sport. Like, every 2 hours, it always disconnects. And anyone remembers, like, when I streamed my earlier days of streaming, and like I had to stop my stream every 2 hours because it always disconnected, and I hated that.
Are you paying all your bills, Rich? Are you paying all of your bills?
Right now I am.
You're not behind on anything that would cause the disconnect?
Oh.
You
No!
paid to the Masonic Center and to the Scientology and so on and so forth?
You know, the weird thing is that I actually upgraded my internet about 2 months ago. So I've been able to up my stream quality, and now when I upload YouTube videos, I can actually get them up a lot faster. So that's a good thing.
This Lambo is so ugly. It's like something Justin Bieber would drive.
My eyes!
But Lambo certainly has some interesting drivers going for it this year. I think, list off the Lambo guys. I don't have the list in front of me at the current time.
Oh, Lambo.
I know Die
let's see.
Godlike. So
Yeah, Nico's brother. Nico's
Brebra.
Yeah. Spider picked it, and then is that Giorgio? I think Giorgio picked it as well. I do know that the Group 3 is a bit of a. I remember time trialing it at Bathurst for.
Yes, I was thinking about that. Right.
Yeah, I think like
such
you
a
know it
bitch,
kind of
dude.
like it's kind of wild to drive it, but it's kind of fun at the same time. But yeah, it's a little bit. If it wasn't as crazy, I might just run it for fun. But yeah, I don't. Weirdly enough, this is the Group 4 car that I just absolutely hate. It's like one of the cars that I absolutely do not get how to drive, because every time that I try to turn the car, it's like, are you sure you want to turn? Yes, turn! And then by the time it turns, I'm like a million miles away from the apex. I just hate that car with a passion. So that's why I've never even tried Lambo. I don't think I've ever tried Lambo for a season. I just can't stand that Group 4 car.
Yeah, dude, that combo at Bathurst made my balls feel small. I just could not get a handle on getting that car. It was 2 seconds I couldn't make up at all. But then I did the Ford GT. I did have the fastest Ford GT time, but it was like 1 second off of pace. I just couldn't figure it out. I don't know what it was. I wasn't doing something right. Hands are too slow. Who knows? But like, how many? Man, that's the thing that we need to. I want to do that. Get a list together of like our projections, kind of like betting odds on what teams are going to be fighting for the 12 coveted spots in the manufacturer series that get to go to live events. It's going to be really tight, man.
Oh, well, as long as we're, I can mention Alpha because we have Lamb returning to Alpha. There was kind of speculation on whether he would or just jump ship, but he's staying on board. You got Rodrigo and CSA. You got a few in EMEA. Yeah, we definitely got names for Alfa Romeo. So there's certainly that's certainly a possibility. I know that the Group 4 presumably got nerfed. I haven't had a chance to actually test out how the car is now, but you know, obviously that the car is. Both the cars are pretty, at least in my eyes, they're not that hard to drive. They don't have the super high ceiling though. It's kind of like you can get fast in them pretty quick, but you know, in terms of raw speed, they don't quite have it. But I would feel again, I do feel like with the slipstream, it does favor, it does help the handling cars quite a bit because any power deficit they can make up for it, but just sitting in slipstream. So, you know, I think Alpha certainly has a chance. And actually, let me. I can just go down through each menu and just kind of quick 5-second spiel. Like I said, Alpha, like both cars are. That wouldn't be a bad all-rounder. Again, I don't know how that Group 4 car, if it's still mega OP, if we ever get a tire shredding combo down the road. Aston Martin, I kind of like how that Aston Martin drives, but I'm kind of going off one I drove it quite a while ago. I do know that Turismo Lester, he seems to love that car. He's staying on board. Nick McMillan is also back for North America. You got McQueen, believe, was he? I can't remember. He was Aston last year as well.
Yeah, he was.
He was. Yeah. Saika in Asia, Ayumu picked in Asia. So Aston, I think they have the drivers to compete. I just don't know if the car is good enough to compete because when I see the Aston, I don't think I've seen them win that often lately. Kind of, they always seem to be kind of like kind of the way the Lexus is now, maybe like a little bit worse than the Lexus.
Right.
Which they seem to do okay, but they can't score like the big points necessary, and I think that might hinder Aston in the long run because I can't. I'm trying to think of a combo where the Aston might be like one of the best cars, and I can't recall any. Maybe one of you guys do, but I really can't think of anywhere like, oh my god, that Aston is like mega here. I can't name one.
I feel like it's always been really good at Monza. It's been good at Buttonwillow, I think. Oh, sorry, Willow Springs. I don't quite remember any others where it was super strong, but that's kind of what its forte is anyway. It's a pretty good all-rounder. Doesn't really have weaknesses so much. Maybe the twistier circuits, but yeah, and it's a good car for sure.
Yeah, I do. From my recollection, I do think it does eat up his tires a little bit, especially in the Group 4 car.
Oh yeah, that's the thing about the tire weakness. And then speaking of drivers for Aston, we have Pelican in here now. He's also driving for him. What's up to Pel? Shout outs to the kin.
Welcome.
Then we also have. Oh, we are the covered Jaguar, so where else can we go? Just keep on going down the order.
Oh yeah, I was gonna go down the list. So Audi, we got Audi. Which we got Parada, Nico, EMEA. There's an Asia driver. That's all we have right now. Obviously, the Group 4 is a front-wheel drive car, which, for those that don't know, front-wheel drive cars are a real challenge in this game, just because the tire wear it's proportionate to the front tires, and there's not much you could do to shift away that wear. Now, I believe all of the FF cars did get BOP changes in the last major BOP update. I haven't had a chance to test them out. I do know that the TT, the few times that I've driven it, is actually not a bad car at the start. It's just that the tires just die off. I do think that the BOP changes were meant to kind of save the tires a little bit, so there's a possibility that the TT could be for Group 4 could actually be more viable now, especially with some of the settings that they're using. Like it's not as drastic, and so outside possibility, but it's one of those things you do need to test. Now the R8 is personally I cannot drive the Group 3 R8. I know people that have been able to. They seem to get good performances out of it. So if you're able to drive the R8, then Audi is certainly a possibility. I just don't know. I do think they're going to be in trouble if the stages start shifting towards back to a tire shredding contest. Because again, both cars are going to have a problem. Like again, obviously the TT because it's front-wheel drive, and
Right.
the R8 does have rear tire wear issues.
Well, the
Anyone
surprising
that knows
thing,
Tichney, he can tell you that
Yeah.
that already can chew up his tires, and that'll become a problem. I think even like in the races that he did recently, he had issues with the R8 with the rear tire wear. So yeah, if the tire wear gets any worse than what it is now, then yeah, they might struggle.
Yeah, I mean that was the surprising thing. It seemed like Martin kind of got a huge challenge on his hands in EMEA this year, but
I don't think he's actually. Did he pick?
no,
I don't
he
think he's
said
picked
he's
yet.
still deciding because of how shit's going. It just seems like there's less places for people to go. There's a lot of competition for sure.
Yeah, I don't
Everyone's
envy
gonna be
anyone in
battling.
EMEA.
Yeah, dude. And that car is difficult to get a handle on. I have a ton of respect for the guys that pushed that car close to some podiums last season. So then what do we have after the Audi?
BMW, and we have returning originals from North America, Nico. South America, we have Steve Gaming right now for MEA. There's probably going to be more. Anchovy Asia, GT Mag in Oceania. There's probably going to be a few more names are going to have to show up, but they already have, North America CSA alone. That's already a strong pair. So I'm pretty sure they'll have more support. So I feel they're going to be fine. Obviously they got the points. They got the points in Sydney, which I'm not sure how that's going to work out if they cancel World Tours, because then it's kind of like BMW has a built-in advantage, like if they only do the finals, because there's
Right,
only the one other
true.
World Tour and they got the points.
Yeah, I don't
So they
like the
already
whole
have a
new
head
point
start.
system. But yeah, BMW is really well established, carrying over from last year. It's a tight group right there, so I expect them to only get stronger, and they've already started the year the best way you can. So yeah, everyone in that group is working super well together. So
Yeah,
now
and the
you have
cars
more
are
guys.
and the cars are actually. I honestly haven't driven any of the BMWs in a long time. Obviously, if you just want to pick it, don't get the Z4. Never ever get the Z4.
Oh yeah, man. Who made that mistake last year's?
I forget who. Yeah, it's
Dang.
somebody picked the Z4.
The GT Academy,
yeah.
the first US GT Academy champion.
I think Kudaman, right?
Tuderman, yeah. He went with it. He may have, maybe there's a sentimental reason he went for the Z4, but yeah.
Maybe you like the look of it, but otherwise, yeah.
The
I
only
don't-
thing that car has going for it is it is the best starter from a grid start of any car in Group 3. It launches like a motherfucker, dude.
I never really tried that, so there you go. Like if you're doing it for the beams, like a Nations combo where you got standing starters. By the way, I did notice some of them are like Group 3 standing, so I was like, okay.
What do you think about their Toyota, Eddie?
The Supra is nice and nimble, got some good power. It seems just very well balanced and stable. I'd fuck her.
With the Toyota, yeah, because you have your choice for Group 3. Well, I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think anyone's able to pick the new Group 4 car. I think you can still only pick the 86, but I'm pretty sure. Like it's from everyone. From everyone told me there's no reason to pick. Even though they allow you to pick the new one, I don't think there's any reason whatsoever to pick the new
It's a hot
Group
mess.
4 Toyota. It's terrible.
And you know what I haven't heard news on yet? Maybe you guys know more, but that Group 3 Mazda that we were supposed to get, Rich and I were talking about it the other day. It seems like it'll become a live event only kind of car for the Mazda guys that if they do get to the show.
It's a possibility, yes, and actually there might be an incentive to pick Mazda. Because I know that some of the top guys have, um, some of their selections are based off not so much for the regular season, but they want to get to a live event and actually, get on the stage and win something. So, um, that could be a good gamble to say, put all your eggs in Mazda, and then when you get there, you get to have like a brand new car, and so it could be that the BOP is going to make it an OP car, but then again, it could also be that they set the BOP and it's like the worst car in the field by a mile, which it seems to me like whenever they bring in a new car into the game, it seems like they either make the car way too powerful and it just becomes like the meta for all the combinations, or it's just immediately forgotten because it's completely useless. There doesn't seem to be like an in-between.
Right. Um, and then after that, what's the next group?
Let's see. Let me scroll back up. Oh, Chevy. Which, that wouldn't... I don't think that's going to be too bad, just because the Group 4 car did get a BOP change, and I know... weirdly, like, I know a lot of people say they don't like the Chevy. Like, I drove the Chevy. I actually kind of like the Group 4 Chevy. It's just that the tires just get absolutely shredded. I do think that the BOP change was supposed to fix that, but I don't know how well it did in that department. I know that a lot, most likely it's going to be Group 3 in terms of gaining points, and Group 3 is I always, like, as long as I can remember, it's always been a pretty solid car. It does lack a little bit of top end, but again, slipstream, so that can kind of negate that. So I believe Marzan is going back to Chevy for North America. Ed in EMEA is going for it. Not sure McEwen is going for it in Oceania yet. Um, I mean, I know that Chevy got in last season, but they barely got in. Or yeah, kind of sort of. They barely got in. I think if the point system was like the rules for this year was set up like last year, they would have been the first one out. And so Chevy is kind of like a borderline pick.
Yeah.
And I think it might be combo dependent for the Chevy.
Definitely, and I think Armin is going to go for it, so he'll make a huge difference to that team. Always good to see Chevy in a series, in a live event, though. That's for sure.
It's always a not
And then
a
Kaiser.
solid
I think
car.
Kaiser probably is going to stick with it too. I would guess.
Yeah, you'd never know. Like I said, I mean, there's been some people have stuck to what they've always stuck to, and but there's also been some big surprises. So that's, you never know.
Yeah,
We're not going to know for certain until people actually race, and then we'll actually see.
Some people could be waiting to skip the first round on Wednesday, just to see what everyone actually locks down with, and then make
definitely viable, yeah. Especially if they cancel several of the tours, then there's no real harm in skipping around just to see everyone else's cards, and then you can play your own card. Especially since the first combo is I don't know who's going to be the strong car there yet, but I know I'm not looking forward to it. I never liked Maggiore. I don't like Maggiore at all, so I don't.
I like that chick. So does Lester.
I like it in reverse, which is something I think almost nobody says. I like it much better in reverse than forwards. I hate forwards. It's just the track would just burn.
Slam down, flip it, and reverse it. What were you gonna say, Tristan?
Oh, I was just agreeing that Lester likes Lago.
Yeah, he's great there.
See, you get someone in the chat agreeing with me. I mean, I don't understand how people could love it going forward. Just because I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent here, but it's like you start off in this one corner in which there's always a pileup. It is mega slow, and then it feels like that first sector is just completely left, right, and you're not going very fast at all. And people just love to just dive into
Dude,
spots that you don't need to.
I really
So,
don't like
her
rivers.
first sector is just mega slow. I just hate it. And then the second sector, you start with that uphill right, which is always mega understeery. I personally never get that corner right. And then you get the S's, which feel completely, I don't know, for me it feels completely wrong, because I always miss that first apex, and then you're supposed to clip the curbs on the right, and it seems like whenever I do it, I get it wrong.
Right.
So I just hate how the S's feel. Like, it feels like it's going slow too fast. Maybe it's just the flow of it. The flow of it feels completely off. Like, I don't like, it's slow too fast, slow too fast, slow too fast. It doesn't feel right to me. Like, I like the other way. It's a little bit more flowy. Like, you start off going up a hill, and then you kind of go around, those two lefts, and then you kind of going a bit like a roller coaster from then on. You kind of go down the hill, and then crazy turn, and then those S's feel a lot more exciting going, because you're going and then super fast, and you're trying to thread this needle, and I don't know. It feels a lot more engaging. The other direction just feels plodding. It's like, what am I doing here? I'm just struggling with understeer all the time. I don't know. That's just me.
I definitely like the forward version a lot more. That first corner right uphill bullshit I really don't like, to be honest, in reverse. And then I don't like the way the hairpin is in reverse either. So yeah, and I generally like tracks that go clockwise as well, a little bit more for some reason. But I mean, which car do you think is going to be the meta for Maggiore there, Tristan?
911.
Yeah, it's usually pretty handy there, huh?
It's amazing. I mean, it's pretty good over the curbs. It's proven its effectiveness in a live event.
Oh yeah.
That's not my ego talking at all. It's its only downside is just heavy fuel consumption. It's pretty easy on its tires there. The Lago is great for the 911, I think, because it induces some understeer in the car, so the tires wear evenly instead of getting the normal balance of excessive rear tire wear. So over a race distance, the car is difficult to beat with anything else. So yeah.
Yeah, I usually see, what other cars? I'm trying to think. It's a pretty well balanced track, to be honest. Some cars, like the advantages that some cars have, are not as much as other tracks that may have a meta car.
Yeah, I'm not the one to ask about that because again, I just don't like generally I don't like Maggiore, and so I never do well in it. Although I do recall there was one time, the only time I got a win in Subaru when I raced it was actually at Maggiore. Well, it was Maggiore with reverse, but it felt really good around Maggiore. Maybe just because it does feel like it has more downforce than the other cars, and so I think it really eats up those corners a lot better than the other cars. Although the fuel is a bit of concern with the Subaru. That's the main downside.
What other car do we have next?
Here, I'll try to blast through these real quick. Citroen. You got my Peugeot teammate from last year, Joe Star in Asia. He decided to go with Citroen this year. You got Adam in EMEA, VLX fella in Oceania. There's probably going to be a few more names added to Citroen. I did mention that if the combos became a lot more dependent on fuel, then Citroen is definitely going to be up there just because both the Group 3 and the Group 4 are, they tend to do pretty well in fuel saving department because you could upshift really early and doesn't lose much pace, if any, at all. In fact, the Group 4 Citroen is just, yeah, if it was like a heavy fuel saving race, that's the car, that's one of the few cars you definitely want to have just because it can make the distance. A lot of times it'll make the distance without pitting, and the tires don't fall off that bad. But otherwise, you know, if it's more like a flat-out affair, the Citroen, I don't know. That's kind of I feel what the problem's going to be because if there's not enough fuel saving, I'm not sure you get the big points out of it. But you never know. After that, you got Dodge, which is I always think of it as a good. You know, if you're just starting out with the game, you know, yeah, you can drive the Dodge because, I mean, neither car is that difficult to drive. You know, it's pretty forgiving, but it's other. I mean, even Lloyd's in North America, when he tried to use the Dodge, I was able to keep up with him, and I think I beat him a couple of times with it, and I shouldn't be. Like Lloyd's is like at Defsum level, or maybe even a little bit of a Defsum's level. And I was keeping up with him with ease in the Dodge when he was in the Dodge. It's that slow of a car. So if you want to be if you actually want to be competitive, don't touch the Dodge. But if you just want to have a nice easy car to drive, I wouldn't mind the Dodge because they're both going to be. They're just going to be there. They're going to be. They're kind of like a field filler. Like, oh, we need some extra cars in there. Throw in a few Dodges. There you go. That type of thing. After that, Ferrari, which is personally, like with the Group 4 car, I don't think I've ever driven the Group 4 car that often, so I can't really speak too much about it. It seems like it could do well in certain combinations. I don't think it's that for an MR car. I don't think it's the most difficult car to drive, but I could be wrong about that. I think the struggle is going to be Group 3 because my general understanding, maybe you guys can correct me on this, because I've always been told that the Group 3 car is fantastic on fuel saving.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a race like that, then it might have like qualifying pace, but that's all it has. It'll just fall off the face of the earth because even with the tire wear as it is now, like it's a little bit less than before, I have a feeling that's going to just destroy any chances you have with the Group 3 car.
Yeah, I'd agree with that assessment for sure. It just seems kind of sad that it's never really in the World Tours and stuff, though. But yeah, I mean that's the way the PD made the car. So
yeah, that's been for the longest. I think it's always been that. It's always been like that with the Group 3 car. Like the only time it's ever won anything was when you have to save like a million liters of fuel to make the end, and you know, oh, you got the Ferrari, you can win the race, type of thing. But yeah, otherwise, I think you're pretty much going to be banking either all Group 4 races for the Ferrari, or you pray that PD starts bringing in heavy fuel saving races for future Group 3 races, or I don't know how it does in the rain. That I don't know. I don't think I've ever tested out the Ferrari in the rain, because I would think they might actually be good in the rain. But then again, I don't think there's enough combos to really take advantage of that. But anyways, here's a menu that I've driven recently, Ford, which I can speak from experience. The Group 4 Mustang, I actually kind of like the Group 4 Mustang. It's just I always felt it was a little bit lacking compared to the other cars, but a lot of those other cars got nerfed. So I actually feel like the Group 4 Mustang can actually do some real damage. The only problem is there are a few people that can attest to this. It has a hole in the fuel tank, a massive hole in the fuel tank. It's going to be a little bit problematic if you have heavy fuel saving races in the Group 4, which I don't. I think we'll get to that last. We'll talk about the individual combos briefly at the end. But I don't think some of them actually fly out affairs, and some of them are like not that much fuel saving. I think there's one that's like kind of weird with the fuel, but yeah, this is like a flower up there. I think the Group 4 Mustang is actually going to be really, it might be a really good car. Group 3 is, you don't, I can't think of a situation where you want the Mustang over the GT. I think the only thing that the Group 3 Mustang has for it is the tire wear. Like, I think it's actually really good tire wear, but otherwise it doesn't. I never seen it do well. Like, I tried to get results out of it, and I just never could. The GT is a car that I could not. I did okay with it. I just could not get any real speed out of it. I know other guys have, but it seems to be like really like a truckish understeery type of MR car, and I just could not get the thing to really work for me. But I know you said like at Bathurst you got some really good lap times out of it, so maybe a certain combinations it'll be really good. Fuel rate is, I don't know. I don't think it's good as it used to be. I think they kind of nerfed that a little bit.
Yeah.
Tire wear seems to be kind of okay for an MR car, not great, but it's I think it's workable at least. I will say for an MR car. Like, I think it's probably better than the R8.
Yeah,
like,
I remember the 4GT.
I was able to get away with
gas.
it with like -3 brake bias with it.
Yeah, I think it was because that car has a weird power band. You can really, you can use, because in order to reach peak horsepower, you have to let it rev past redline forever. It seems like.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that is already with the car. It's just like you go like way past the bars. Like, wait a minute, how many more RPMs does this car have?
Yeah, so.
And I've been guilty of actually hitting the limiter because like, where does this end? And then you hit a curve, it's like, oh damn it, hit the limiter.
Yeah, so you can actually get away with short shifting a crazy amount and still having good power. So you could always save a lot of fuel that way. I remember one of the first encounters that I had with, well, it was like the second big race that Roadbeef and I had, or it may have been the first. Anyway, it was Bathurst, and I used the 4GT and did a no stop and barely made it. It was their tire shred at the end. It was ridiculous, man. And I remember it was an all-star race, but we weren't S, so Roadbeef and I were A+, and we raced in the same split, and he went with a Mercedes, but 4GT, dude, I don't know. I was racing I'm Ibrahim on that one. And I remember the only reason I went for a no stop was because he said in the chat, no stop, ? And I was like, huh. So I went for a no stop and somehow made it work. But Tristan was catching me really fast in the end.
Well, not fast enough.
Oh. But it was really fun. I do like the GT here and there. Not all the time, though. I'll have it in little bits, and that'll be fine. But yeah, Ford. I don't know. It seems like North America may be underrepresented for that mark. So
Yeah, if I knew how to drive the GT, I might have had it on my list, but I just can't. I just can't get the speed out of that car.
And what manufacturer are you gonna go for, Rich?
I'll get to it in a sec. Let me just. I think we're almost there to that one.
Oh, okay.
Honda. Yeah, Honda is. I was surprised that I think a lot of people were speculating that Lois was going to go with Honda, and he ended up going Porsche. So that's a bit of a surprise. I know B Racer is going to use Honda. Shohei is going to use it for Asia. I'm certain like Honda is going to start filling up because I feel Honda, they have pretty good cars in both Group 3 and Group 4. I want to say it's better in Group 4 than Group 3, but I could be wrong. I know that I believe the Group 4 is really good on fuel, so it's got that going for it. I'm not sure about the Group 3. I'm honestly not really familiar with the Group 3 car. I think I've only driven it a few times, but I do feel like it's probably going to be more of a Group 4 with the Honda, which might be a little bit problematic with lab events, but we'll see. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't really driven the Group 3 that much to really have an idea. Now, everyone's favorite menu in lab events, Hyundai,
Hmm.
or as I like to put in the chat, instead of F, I just put H because the poor menu. I think they score like what, maybe 2 points total for all across all the events they've been at. Like, I think they score only 2 points, which
Yeah.
is kind of sad. But Windfire is back for Hyundai. Esposito for CSA. Stefanski's apparently going for it in EMEA. And we might get. I don't know if DeConzio is going to get it again, like he always does for Oceania. Honda, I know people keep dogging the Hyundai, and I always said I've always liked the Hyundai. That one time that I drove it a long time ago, I was like, hey, this car isn't too bad, and it definitely doesn't have the speed, but it saves the tires pretty well, and with the slipstream, just as a prime example at Fuji in the preseason in the Group 4 race. This was before the BOP change, so Defsun had the Jaguar at Fuji. Windfire had the Group 4 Hyundai. You would think that's a mismatch. There's no way Windfire could beat Defsun when Defsun has the Jaguar. Well, sure enough, Windfire beat Defsun thanks to the slipstream. So he has shown that you just need to park the Hyundai behind another car, and it can pretty much just stay there the whole race. So that's kind of that's the Hyundai strat for you.
Yeah, dude,
So,
that reminds me of the Monza round in the first stage. It was the end of the first stage last season, and I was Group 4 at Monza, and the Jaguar was really hot, and I was with Jaguar, and I practiced my ass off for that race, and was doing pretty decent, and so it was one of the few times that season where I was really battling up front, and yeah, Windfire was in the Hyundai, and that's exactly like what you just said is exactly what he did. Is he hung in there, even though the car literally when it was practice one-on-one between himself and me, it was I'll be able to pull on him with the draft, but with multiple cars around, he's just so, his racing mind is so good, and he knows really well how to time moves and do placement and do smart defensive maneuvers with traffic and stuff. So yeah, that gave me a good overview of his skill set and how he's developed it over the last couple years. And yeah, he was able to get ahead of me and keep the position. Like he would launch, he would go from being behind me, then he went to another car and stayed with them and just kept moving up consistently. So yeah, it's a scrappy car because it seems very stable and stuff. I've only driven it a handful of times, but there's a separation there because Wind is able to do so well with it on his own, but when it comes to the teammates that he needs, the people aren't necessarily attracted to that brand, so it's tough. It's a tough sell. And
no, and I get it because again, it just doesn't have the raw pace that the other cars do. But again, the slipstream just keeps everyone in play. So I definitely even for a beginner car, I would definitely want to have a nice fun season. Just pick Hyundai. It's just about everywhere I've seen. I've seen Windfire able to get results just about everywhere. Even in the power tracks, he's just able to. You just have to learn how to stay in slipstream, and you're set. You're good to go.
Oh yeah. Oh, and speaking quickly back on Honda, I do feel that Red Bull's success with the Honda engine in Formula One has made an impact on the attractiveness of that particular manufacturer as well. So people are just hyped on Honda in general more these days, and that's cool to see too. But we'll see how it breaks down in the official season. But so, what do we have after the Hyundai?
Hyundai, we got Jaguar, which I already mentioned. Devsun, Hellfire. There's probably gonna be more names. Obviously, the big news is that the Group 4 car got power nerfed, and so I think that's probably scaring a few people away. But again, it is Devsun and Hellfire, and so they're definitely gonna get the point. They're definitely gonna get points there. If they ever do a Group 3 bob change, it might help out the Group 3 car or could end up hurting them. That I don't know. So that is the one gamble that I feel Jaguar's going to have. Is like, are they going to nerf the Group 3 cars well? Because then how are they score points? But I mean, both cars. I could speak from experience because I tried to get Jaguar into finals. Jomas and we tried to get that car into finals, and we just barely missed out. And to this day, I'm salty about it because I told people back then Jaguar's not that bad of a car, and now last season it became popular, and I see quite a bit of Jaguars all around all the time. And so yeah, people already know, hey, Jaguar's not that bad of a car to pick. Even with the power nerf, I still think that it's not that bad of a car. I do think the Group 4 car is definitely the better of the two. Both are. They used to be really good fuel savers, but I think that got nerfed a little bit. I do know the Group 3 struggles on the fast corners, and so. But again, I mean, if you want to be able to do most of the combos, then Jaguar's another solid pick to go with. Like especially if you're more inclined to have like a little bit more power based. Then like I said, Hyundai is also a good pick. But if you want go a little bit more power, Jaguar. If you're more handling, I'll go with Hyundai. After Jaguar, Lamborghini. I think I mentioned some of the drivers before. I think Giorgio's going to go for it. Spider. A few guys in Asia. Group. I mentioned before I hate the Group 4 car with a passion, but I know that. I forget his name, Mata in North America has been able to get results out of the Group 4 car. But again, I just don't understand how to drive that car. So if you know how to drive that car, I mean, there's potential for results. It's probably more of the results are going to be in the Group 3 car because the Group 3 is really fast and is straight. And so if you get any really truly high speed combinations, then the Lambo is going to show its power and its ability to qualify well. You just got to keep it. Try to not bin it with that car. Definitely not a beginner's car. It's definitely a car in which you need find a way to keep that car under control because the tires do go on the Lambo, and when they go, it's kind of like the R8, but it's worse.
Yeah.
To kind of give you a perspective.
I think Tristan's gonna be nodding off.
I just need to go slip into something more comfortable, such as unconsciousness.
I love wearing that.
Yeah, it suits me well. Rich, you're like the Gray's Sports Almanac of Gran Turismo.
No, I'm not.
You totally are, dude. And thank you for showing up and sharing so much useful info. I feel like we're gonna have a part 2 of this, possibly even tomorrow night.
It'll be fun.
So I've got a lot to think about thanks to you, and I wish you guys both a good night. I wish I could stay up longer, but it's about 3 hours past my usual bedtime. So I'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Thanks, Tristan. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. I'm there. Take good care. Have a good night.
You too.
So now it's just Rich and I, but we will continue going down the list.
Yeah, so after Lambo we have Lexus, and this one is where it gets a little bit interesting because some of the menus are you actually have a selection for either the Group 3 and the Group 4. This is definitely one of them. This is where strategy can come into play. So with Lexus you have Billy Bernal is going to go for CSA as far as we know, Kawakana in Asia, Noble in Oceania. One of the things to point out is that the Group 4 car, to my recollection, I think that also got a power nerf similar to the Jaguar. So that did hurt the Group 4 car a little bit. Now, I do remember driving that Group 4 car a long time ago. This is how I got to Paris, and I recall, man, this car kind of feels like a pig. But the lap times are okay. It's probably still the same, although it's probably a little bit slower now because of the nerf that it got. I do believe it's pretty good on fuel, not so good on tires. So that's something to keep in mind with the Group 4 car. The Group 3 is where you have that choice between two cars, and this is where There's been kind of a lot of, is one really better than the other? And you have they call it the 16 prototype. So it's kind of like I guess it's kind of like the actual car hasn't come out yet, and so this is kind of like, this is probably what the car is going to be like. And then you have the actual 17 Lexus. And there's actually a difference between the two from what I've heard. The 16 is, whatever reason, it revs higher. And it's just purely personal. Like the engine knows is a little bit weird when you rev out that car, because when you upshift it, it kind of has like a burble to it after it upshifts, which is kind of weird. Like some people don't hate it. I actually love that little.
It's not like the Mercedes where it's just like, just super quick, feeling,
So you got a little bit of different engine note, so that's a personal preference. But the more important thing is for whatever reason, the 16 Lexus is a lot better on fuel than the 17, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, because if you have a combination where it's flat out, then the fuel actually kind of hurts you a little bit, because when you go out and qualify, you want to burn as much fuel as you can, but if your car is really good on fuel, then you can't burn the fuel, and so it's like, it doesn't help. But if you get a combination where fuel mileage becomes a big factor, then you definitely want the 16. So it's kind of a risk reward. Like, do you want to pick the 16 for the bit of fuel mileage? Because it might hurt you a little bit in qualifying, but it's going to help you in the race. So it's kind of, and the 17 is, it revs lower. It is not as good on fuel, so but that's going to be good for qualifying. I think, and there's a bit of a handling difference as well, which is, I'm not the expert on it. I think my best understanding of it is that the 16 is a better car on the slower speed corners than the 17. But the lap times are kind of similar. I know that's my recollection when I tested it out last year, but I don't know if that's changed or not. So I think part of it is going to be, if you're going to pick Lexus, it's going to be which car do you think you're going to do better with, number one, and do you think that there's going to be a lot of fuel-saving combos coming up in the later stages, because then you definitely want the 16 in that situation. But again, it's kind of a gamble that you're doing with. And I think, according to my spreadsheet, Noble actually picked the prototype, so I think he's going with that strat of, hey, let's hope for some, got to save fuel like a Prius type of race.
Right. Sorry, I was changing I was looking at the pit. Had the pit glitch happen in the.
Oh yeah, I see it. Yeah, that's unfortunately one of the bugs that has not been fixed yet. It may not never get fixed.
How do you fix it? Can you just change tracks and come back, or?
Oh, that's one way of doing it. Yes, you can just change the time of day and just change it.
Oh yeah.
Well, you don't really need to change it. Oh, if you're doing the actual combo, then yeah, you'll probably want to change it back. 90% chance with Aston Pelican. Yeah, that's. You've done really well with the Aston. I mean, you've even beaten Lester quite a number of times. So, yeah, I mean, you seem to have a good grip on the car. Yeah. I'm not here to tell anyone who to go for, but you seem to do really well with it. That's kind of one of the things. Which I could at least segue into my likely pick. 99% chance I'm going to pick it, Nissan, because I mentioned it earlier that I just love that Group 3 GTR. I guess a part of it is because it feels closest to how cars drove in GT6. There's a certain way you had to drive cars in that game, and I think that translates really well into the Group 3 GTR. I don't know why. It's one of those things, and I think I knew it for sure when there was that One Nations combo at Sardinia, the really short one, and the GTR happened to be the meta car. And the fact that the only person that was faster than me was Lloyd's, and Doodle was actually right up with my pace, but I was able to keep him behind me the entire race.
Nice.
Which is like, that was a proud moment. Like, holy moly, I actually managed to fend off Doodle.
Hell yeah, dude,
really
that's
keep
no
him at
shit.
bay. Yeah, I was really proud of myself, but that's when I realized, oh my god, like and even my qualifying times, like oh, this wasn't such a great lap, but I was still way better. I was still beating just about everyone else, and I was doing laps of my own, and was still doing really good with the car. So that kind of told me that, hey, you're really good with this car. You go above, you do, compare lap times like with this car compared to any other car. I'm just really fast with it, and so. That's one part. That's the main reason. The other one is actually related to, for anyone that follows me, I put out there that I haven't been able to race for a while, and that's related to my neck. Which, long story short, I've had 2 car accidents. Not my fault. I want to put that out there. Not my fault. I was just minding my own business, just stopped, and I got rear-ended 2 times in my life. Oddly enough, in the same exact car, which is kind of sad.
Oh, in the Subi?
In the Subi, yeah, my Subaru Legacy, which, by the way, I still, to this day, I still miss that car. I love that car. But anyway, if I could, I should have saved my driver's seat and,
Oh yeah,
use
very
it
comfortable.
for my racing rig, but that's kind of beside the point. But yeah, the thing is, with both of those accidents, I had issues with my neck, the disc in my neck, and so both times I ended up having to have injections into my neck because I herniated a disc in my neck. And everything that I did wasn't really helping, and so I had to do those injections. So I had to do that twice because it's 2 accidents. So both times I had to end up going to that step. Well, I always felt that, especially after the second one, even I had to do 2 injections, and neither of them actually. The first one actually didn't do that much for me. It's like, well, what's going on? It's like, yeah, you might have to do a second one. So I ended up doing the second one, and I ended up being like 95%. It's like, this didn't quite help me, and they pretty much said, yeah, I think at this point, just because you've already had trauma before, that this is probably as good as it's going to get, and it's possible that, with all the 2 accidents that, it's possible that you might re-injure it at some point, which I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I was practicing for Major, the little short track with the Group 4 GTR, and I recall I heard a pop in my neck, and that's when it like, oh, okay, just all the pain from it almost felt like after the accident, like a day after the accident, like all that pain came back. It's like, oh no. And so yeah, there was just no way I could drive with that pain because the whole twisting and turning and everything is obviously going to affect my neck, and that's not good. But I think I'm at a stage in which, thankfully, the exercises that I found and the medication has actually brought down the pain significantly. It's still there, but I'm actually going to try to give it a go tomorrow in terms of like, not try hard practice, but just just a regular practice session to see.
Yeah. I really hope you can get back in there, man.
Yeah,
that's a really tough thing. It feels like it's something that's impossible to fix or whatever. I know it can be hopeless, but you never know. I mean, there's therapies and rehabilitation and stuff you may be able to do, even stem cells, stuff like that, Regenikine. I know it's all expensive stuff, but
because realistically, all that can be done is they first go with medication, then they try to do physical therapy, massages, and whatnot. And if that does, and exercises, which, like I said, but again, I'm already taking medication because I've gone through this already, so I already know medication I got to take. The exercises I already know, and I found some new ones. So I'm trying those out. Thankfully, this time it's actually working. But unfortunately, like if those doesn't work, then realistically, the only options left is you either got to do more injections, which I've been told that you do that too many times, it actually degenerates the disc in your neck, which is not a good thing. And then finally the surgery, which is like a big, that's realistically like in case of emergency break glass type of thing, which that's not where I'm not even close to that right now. So again, I'm going to try to practice tomorrow. And again, I picked the Nissan because again, I already driven the Nissan, so I already know how it drives. And the GTR is like a car that give me like 30 minutes, and like I just find speed really fast in that car, so I don't need to practice that hard for it. Which is, right now, like I don't, the less seat time I need to take to get up to speed, the better. So that kind of helps as well. And the only thing is that I did try to do like when I did the testing, quick testing for rounds, I found that I didn't really have the arm strength to use the wheel at the settings that I had before, so I had to turn everything down to basically arcade racing wheel settings, which is like like you're at Chuck E. Cheese and you ever been to like one of those wheels? It's like it's basically no resistance whatsoever.
AT80 status.
I basically had to set my wheel to that setting. So I'm gonna try to see if I can bump it up a little bit just to get some feedback. But yeah, it's I was able to drive it reasonably okay. Like I think with enough practice I can actually drive it that way. It's just it's kind of weird to basically just drive a Chuck E. Cheese wheel, however you want to describe it. But yeah, it's it's Maggiore, and I hate Maggiore. I don't think the GTR is gonna be great there anyway. So it's kind of like okay, I don't.
Yeah, give yourself a little pause.
If the car doesn't, if the GT, actually, I'm gonna be so thrilled to find out the GTR is not good at Maggiore, because then that means like I don't need to really try. I'm just gonna put just enough effort to just be not terrible and just do one race and then just like okay, we'll just call it.
Damn, really hope you can do more than that, man. But
yeah, because it kind of like it's kind of sucky, like the whole coronavirus, like everyone's gonna be at home. Everyone's going to be able to really try hard, and here I am, like, yeah, I don't get that advantage, because, well, knock on wood, I'm still working. I don't know how long that's going to last, but, probably still be working for, like, another week, I don't know, but even if I, get to be in a position to try hard, my neck is like, no, you can't try hard. This is kind of like a bit of a lost cause, but, again, that's what... I think regardless of I was going to pick Nissan, but I just think that just having all the seat time already with the car, and I'm really good with the car, and it doesn't take that long for me to get fast with it. You just kind of and me feeling like I'm not going to qualify anyways, like just pick the car, just pick the Manu you enjoy. I just love driving that GTR, so it's like it just makes sense to me to pick it. The one exception would be if I don't know, like one of the really fast NA drivers picks it, then they'd be like, yeah, okay, maybe not. But I think just about everyone else in North America, like all the guys above me, are picking not Nissan, so I think I'm pretty safe. Knock on wood. Knock on wood.
A lot of wood knocking today, yes.
Yes.
But yeah, man.
I will have Henzo. I will have Henzo and CSA. I thought I was gonna have Fire in EMEA, so that's the big surprise. So actually, that will actually be good. That's good and bad, because that's one. Fire was definitely gonna beat me, no matter what I did. But not having him means that we might not even be top 12. We do have BLX GTR and Oceania, so. And I do think Asia has been able to score good points with the GTR, so it could end up being like a four-way battle, depending if anyone EMEA wants to take up Nissan. Which, like I said, I don't feel like I'm going to be able to qualify and be top 3 anyway. So, but it would be kind of at least nice to be kind of back in my mind, like maybe like be like the number 4 driver or number 5. So first or second reserve driver, and you never know. Like someone might not be able to go, and then I'll be able to go. So
yeah,
there's actually maybe there's like an alternate strategy as well. Like if like you already got 3 top tier drivers, maybe just take a gamble. Say, hey, maybe one of them might miss a tour or two. So be the first reserve. And that way it's like, okay. And that way, because maybe people will shy away from it because they see the names like, oh, I'm not going to pick that menu. I'm not going to get to go. But you got to remember, if for the tours, if one of the drivers doesn't get to go, they don't go to the same region. They go to the next one.
Exactly.
So it's kind of like a backdoor way
Keep
of
your head
getting
up.
in.
Yep. Always keep pushing.
Well, they already did the first tour, Pelican. It was Sydney. Second one is supposed to be Nürburgring in May, but I would bet money that that's not going to happen. So it'll probably, I would say optimistically, maybe the third one, which I don't know. I have felt that one was either going to be a European one or that would be America.
Yeah, so the first kind of, besides Sydney, the next one is going to be in May, or potentially, I guess. It's really a big question mark at this point, obviously, but it was supposed to be Nürburgring. Depends on whether or not the race at Nürburgring in May is going to be held, the 24 hours of Nürburgring. And the qualifier for that was going to be this season, or this stage, right?
Yes. Well, at least according to the slide that they put up in Sydney.
Yeah, they put a slide up. I wish I could post a link to it, but I don't really have it on me right now. But yeah, then after that, I think how many total World Tours were on that image?
I think it was going to be 5 because it would have been stage 1, 2, and then 2, 3. Yeah, I think that was the way to set it up. So after each stage, they would do a tour, or like it might have been like in the middle of a stage, but the results after stage 1, the results after stage 2, 3, and then 4. Which is a little bit different than last year, because last year they kind of used some of the exhibitions, which kind of, I can't lie, that's how I got in. No, take it back. Oh no, I did get in, but in a weird way. But yeah, it was going to be associated with each stage, how the results look like after each stage. But now like I said, that's in doubt. Again, no one can predict it. So okay, like I would say again, that's why I stressed earlier about maybe think of it in terms like you gotta get a menu that you gotta think about the long term. Like you can't really look at just stage 1 because that's just a part of the schedule. It's only 25%.
Yeah. And isn't it? It's a really interesting little ecosystem we have going on, and it gets more and more complex every year. The whole manufacturer draft era right before the official seasons kick off, because it's like playing poker. Everyone's kind of sitting, trying to hold their cards tight to their chest, not showing. Some people are trying to fake people out with the cards that they use in preseason. Everyone expects maybe them to use those, and then they go for something else. And then obviously the occasional BOP change can throw things into the air even more. And yeah, so it's definitely an interesting dynamic that they've created with this whole set of rules. We can't give them shit for it. It's a pretty interesting. It's kind of brutal because you end up having to exclude people that you like and stuff, or potentially exclude people, but that's just the name of the game, and you kind of have to be a little selfish in order to really get results and have that chance to get to World Tours.
Yeah, that's kind of it's kind of, I kind of get it, like, there's kind of the downside of attracting more people into the game, or especially more of the top end level skilled players into the game. Just the fact that just think about how the roster has changed since like the very first few events compared to what it is now. Like I somehow was able to get into the first tour in Austria because they just picked a random exhibition season, and I was third in nations. And if you think about me competing in nations this year, I mean, I already decided I'm not touching nations. And I don't think we even mentioned it on the here yet about how there's even less spots for nations this year than last year, because I think they reserved some spots for the host nation now, and so it essentially subtracts number of spots for all the regions. So yes, I think it's down to 24 from 36, which is disappointing because just for example, North America, I mean, I'm not gonna, try not to jinx it, but I mean, let's be blunt. I think we only get 3 spots total, realistically. Unless I forget the exact number, I think it's only 3, and I think we get a few more if, hopefully, when we host it. But realistically, I mean, you can pencil in like Def Sun. If Lloyd's does nations, that's just 2 spots gone. It only leaves 1 more. Like, who is it? It's like, I mean, I can name you like 9 or 10 people that have a better chance than I do.
Yeah, it's gonna be very competitive. It's gonna be very draining too.
That's what I'm saying. And that's why kind of like this whole conversation is more focused on Manu. It's like it's just to get in on nations is just gonna be. I don't even want to think about how difficult it's going to be just to get in. Although, I mean, I think part of the problem is that they didn't change the point system from last year, and so without getting too much into the details, what happened last year was that basically after it's 40 races, but the problem is just the way the points and everything works and how people drop out during the year. Like basically by round 20. Everything was pretty much already decided. Like there was no point in doing any more races because you literally could not score. You literally could not outscore the guys. They already got their points. So it was just impossible to score more points. So like there was no point in doing races other than the top 16. So it's kind of, it was kind of silly. And I feel it's going to be the same with. It looks like unless they change the rules at some point, it's going to be the same deal. So it's like why. After 2 stages, it's probably going to be over again, and so it's like there's no, and with the less spots, there's not much incentive to do nations unless you want to have fun.
It's crazy to me that they started with a shifter kart race too. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. I mean, it's been quite a long time since we had a shifter kart race.
The only one I remember was Tsukuba in 2018.
Yeah, one of the rare times where I could say I had fun at Tsukuba. Like that was like maybe the only time I ever actually enjoyed a race at Tsukuba. I mean, the slipstream was kind of silly and whatnot.
Insane.
Yeah, but otherwise, actually that was kind of fun. I really enjoyed. It's not a joke. Like I actually wish that I could actually do that race just for fun, but my neck is not going to allow it because those carts, you gotta hold that wheel so nice and tight and everything. Yeah, that's like the absolute last thing. I absolutely cannot drive the cars because you need such. It's just a weird way to set up the wheel just to get the cart to work. Yeah, that's not going.
Well, that's what's interesting. It's like if you do a Nations Cup race without any pressure of trying to, if you release a pressure of needing to do well in order to have a chance to get to the actual event, it becomes a series of just fun races. I mean, I love spec racing. It's kind of sad that I'm not doing it in GT anymore these days, but yeah, the occasional fun Nations Cup run, that would be cool. Actually,
that's kind of a good way of looking at it, just because I even had that thought myself. Like I looked at some of the comments like, hey, this one could actually be fun. And I'm like, and I kind of had that mindset of, hey, I'm not going to be competing, like going to be tryharding, and so I could just jump in here and pay, not even pick the meta card. I think there's one guy that said that one of the aliens in our region, he said, I'm gonna do nations, but I'm just gonna do certain combos, and I'm not even gonna pick the meta car. I'm just gonna pick like a meme car.
Nice.
Just go out there and just have some fun out there. It's like, why not? Like it might be almost like a a way to relieve some stress, to just have some fun and not worry about points and whatnot. Because I do know, like, for example, like the kart race is, the points are going to be terrible, so it's not going to count for anything anyway. So you just go out there and have a blast.
Yeah, dude. So what else is on the list? Are we pretty close?
Let me just wrap up on the menus, and I'll go really, really fast. I think I already mentioned Mazda. Group 4 car, useless. Group 3, pretty easy to drive. I think it might have the drivers to qualify. The only thing lacking with the Group 3 is top-end speed, but I think the slipstream is going to help. McLaren, or the Maca, as many people call it. I think the recent Group 4 BOP changes is really going to help the McLaren Group 4 by default. I know quite a number of people have mentioned that, and they might pick McLaren. Although I don't think we have too many names in there yet.
Not quite.
We might at some point. Group 3 is where it's a little bit problematic. The 650S is... I recall driving that car for one season a long time ago, and that car just doesn't seem to do anything great. Like it's just there. So I don't think it can really it can do okay, but I don't think it can score any points. I know of kind of a weird strategy. Maybe you do have the F1 McLaren,
right?
Group 3 you could pick,
who's got the balls to pick that one, huh?
I mean, possibly. It's kind of like with the VG, how I picked the VGT, the Pug VGT last season. Like, it's a niche car, but if the niche combo shows up,
it got you to Austria, yeah.
But you never know. Mercedes, which definitely, as Nick McCosey would say, you drive with the best. Definitely. I can't recall a season that I ever played where Mercedes was not at least average to above average. Because it seems like no matter the combo, no matter what PD does, it's like the Group 4 and Group 3 are always been solid cars to pick. So another one of the, if you just want to have fun this season, Mercedes is always a very safe choice. Ant is coming back. Susu's doing it for EMEA. McCosey obviously for Oceania. I think Mercedes is pretty much 99% chance McCosey's going to qualify for Mercedes. So that's one spot gone. Susu, pretty sure he's going to lock up EMEA. So it's going to be going to be difficult to actually qualify. But again, if you're just looking for fun races, and
shout outs to DNA Nike in our chat. He's going to be going with McLaren. I hope he does well. He's in South America, so good luck there, brother. It's a car. Dude. I've driven it a few times, and it's temperamental, and it's pretty bad on its tires, from what I remember. So, but I don't know.
Really? No, I've always thought it was good on its tires. At least every time that I've driven it, I felt like this tire was actually such a big advantage.
I always felt that it had. Well, it was just an imbalance that I felt. It may have been different because I only raced it in a league race event. So it was interesting. I did like it. I mean, it was super nice at Nürburgring GP. I'm not sure about the full Nürburgring. And it was always pretty good on fuel too, from what I remember. But
decent, not great. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a strength. It just has, maybe a little bit above average. But yeah, like I said, that's always. I don't think there's nothing wrong picking Mercedes. You just want to have fun, other than maybe annoying top split drivers if you pick it, because then it's like, oh my god, there's like 7 Mercedes and they're all going to be right around me. Poor Mitsubishi, which is the forgotten. I think maybe it had I want to say it had like a one wood. It showed up at World Tour one time. I can't remember.
I was like, how did it even make it? In retrospect, it's crazy that it was in the very first. It was in Monaco the first year.
The Group 3 Lancer actually I've always thought it was a nice car to drive. Like it was like super grippy and on rails, but then they got the power nerf, and then it wasn't as good.
Yeah.
We have one name on there right now, which is to be expected because no one likes the Group 4 car. I don't like the Group 4 car. It's just. Windfire actually has shown that it wasn't completely useless, but it's just such. It's just really hard to get anything out of the Group 4 car. I do think it got a bop upgrade, but yeah, I think it's pretty much all in the Group 3 Lancer. I will say, like, if it did get its 1% power back, then maybe that Lancer would be really good. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, everything rides in the Group 3 car for Mitsubishi. So if you're just gonna do Group 3, yeah, maybe you could pick the Lancer as a kind of oddball pick. I already covered Nissan. I love the GTR. Not everyone loves the GTR, but if you love the GTR, I can't lie, it was borderline OP in the exhibition season. Like, it just had really good combos. But even in the non-OP combos, like, I always felt like I got good speed out of it. There's definitely a acquired taste. Like, if it works well with you, like, it's got a thunk top end right now. It just accelerates like a banshee off of corners. You just have to watch out. It really does require a good throttle management, which is something I'm good at, and so I think that's why another reason why it fits me so well. The Group 4 is just not a. It seems it's a good qualifying car. It just has too much front tire wear, unfortunately. I'm kind of hoping that it would kind of help it a little bit, but it didn't get any help. It did get a little bit of help with weakening the other cars, but I still don't think it's going to be enough. But it's definitely a car which I feel like you can qualify well, but you're probably not gonna do any better than where you started. You might end up losing a spot or two or more.
Right.
Both cars do have decent fuel mileage, so we'll add that. After that, we got my menu from last year, Peugeot. I had always wanted to do... Last year what I wanted to do was called it the Peugeot Voltron, which is basically you need to get a lot of, like, you have the alien tier, and then you got like cars like just below it that I would have no chance of qualifying. But I always thought, like, this is a crazy idea with the Peugeot, because the group, okay, flat out, the Group 4 car is useless, even after the BOP change. Don't bother with it. All it ever do is qualify top 3, and then it'll just be last place at the end of the race,
Yeah.
just because, yeah, it's just only do it for the memes. Otherwise, don't even think about using the Group 4 car. Group 3, this is where it gets interesting. This is the Peugeot Voltron. So I always had this idea of you have certain drivers pick the RZZ, and you get the rest of them picking the VGT.
Ooh, Zed. I like
Because what ends up happening is that if it's a handling combo, get the RZZ drivers go out and get the points. If it's a track with lots of speed, fuel saving, and whatnot, you get the VGT out. And that way you cover all the Group 3 combinations. Now, obviously, it's going to end up being to where, again, only 3 people get to go to the tours. And so, but kind of the way I see it, it's kind of like, it's your long shot, but hey, at least you got a shot. And if Peugeot qualifies, then it's not so much you're competing against your guy. You're just hoping that you get the combos that you need to beat the other guy. So you're you're kind of like in a co-opetition. So you're not really competing against each other. You are, but at the same time, you're not on. You're never going to be on the same. On the same combo.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because you either have the RZZ, which, by the way, the RZZ is pretty good in the rain. Not the best car, but that's how we got our 4th place in Austria last year, because the Group 4 car was
I remember that. That
pretty
was
good,
great.
pretty good car. I liked it. I really enjoyed. I only got to do 1 lap, but yeah, it was a pretty good car. And the RZZ isn't the only, like I said, the downside is that car. The fuel mileage is average, and the it has no straight line speed at all. But again, the whole thing about Slipstream helps out the handling cars a lot more than the power cars, and so another one of those. Hey, if you can get the RZZ in Slipstream, then you might be okay. You might be able to get something out of the RZZ. And it's a pretty nice car to drive. I actually kind of like driving the RZZ. And again, the BGT again, it's you get like any track with any Tokyo layout, just about any Tokyo layout you want the VGT. That thing is bloody fast. You really want VGTC might be the best car to have, especially if you get like a Tokyo East. You are good to go. You're gonna get the max. Very likely you'll get the max 40 points. I know because I did that one preseason. One of the fun races I had. But yeah, that's one way of that's the only way you can get Peugeot into get into the top 12. You're gonna have to work together. You have to assemble the people. Which right now I think only I have a name. I have Calster and EMEA that's apparently going for Peugeot. So good luck to you, Calster. You need to build your Peugeot Voltron.
Get on it.
Get on it, because I tried that last year, but I only got the VGT drivers in, so it was only half Voltron. After that's Porsche, which we've already covered, which is, again, you can pick it if you just want a nice car all around for both, but otherwise you're not qualifying because the names on it are just... Yeah, that might be the hardest one. That's utterly stacked. Now, here's one which I'm surprised I don't see more names. Renault. Yeah. And I say that mainly because of the Stage 1 schedule. I think the Stage 1 schedule really favors Renault.
The Group 3 car is so important that why would you even go for it?
Well, I don't think the Group 3 car is terrible. Like every time that I've driven the Group 3 Renault, I've always found it to be really nice handling car. It just doesn't. Again, just the top end is just not very good. But again, Slipstream. I keep putting it out there. Like just the fact that the Slipstream right now is OP means that you can make it work. You just have to find out a way to always get Slipstream in qualifying so that you start near the front. You get a good starting spot. And then just hook up to a power car, just stay in the Slipstream, and then you can get around them. Just look at Mikhail's races in the preseason. He was able to. He did it a few times, and it's not. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous. He kind of showed the way, like he can get it done. Same thing with the Group 4 Megane. It's the same concept. You just have to find the Slipstream. Just find a partner, get the good Q spot. Again, just park it behind a car, especially the Group 4 car. Like that car, I think even with the BOP changes, like his tire wear is among the best of any car. And there's going to be races where that's going to matter. And so, all these other guys are going to have to worry about, with all the pit stops and whatnot. The Renault was like, okay, one lap on the hard, I'm going to do a billion laps on the soft tires, and it'll just never drop off in pace. Might be not be as relevant, like not as OP as before, but still it's at least for Stage 1, like you can probably get some big points with Renault. The downside obviously is that you don't know what the rest of the schedule looks like, and that's where it becomes problematic. And then also, might as well mention it now, like in case PT ever puts the Slipstream back to normal, then handling cars relying on Slipstream are going to be screwed. I can't lie. Yeah, they're going to be screwed. So that's the gamble that you're taking with Renault. Next is poor Subaru, the Mikhail's favorite manufacturer, and yet he kind of just ditched him out the altar like I put it in the video. Actually, the Group 4 car, like I think the recent BOP changes has actually made it a lot more viable car to select. Like that car has just shown, I think it actually might be a pretty viable car. The only problem, I don't know if they fixed it. Since when I drove it, the fuel mileage is terrible on the Group 4 car. It might be even worse now because it got more power, but if it's not fuel, it seems like the tire wear, like, even when it chews up its tires, it doesn't seem to suffer as much as the car, like the GTR. And I think it's because it's got less power than the GTR. And so I don't think it suffers as much as other four-wheel drive cars when the tires start to die. But something you need to test out. But I think Group 4, it might not be as bad as people think it is. One of those things you got to try out. Group 3 is definitely a handling car. One that I sometimes struggle with when I drove it, but when you get it, if you can figure out how to drive the Group 3 cars, it's actually a pretty nice car to drive. It just doesn't have the top end. Again, another one of those, if you can get it in Slipstream, you might be in a really good spot. At least when I drove it, I had really good tire wear in the Subaru.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case now, but at least when I drove it, I had like amazing tire wear. But again, that's just history. I don't know how it is now. The fuel mileage, I'm pretty sure they didn't fix it, so I think that's like one of the worst cars in Group 3 for fuel, so that's the downside. Which kind of sucks because, again, its straight line speed is just tragic. And so it's kind of like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's really good on corners, but it has no top end whatsoever, and it's the worst car on fuel. It doesn't seem to connect. So you got that, yeah, it's going to be problematic. Oh, I forgot to mention earlier, the Peugeot VGT Group 3 car is one of the best cars in fuel mileage, and that's is also one of the fastest top end. So, yeah, that makes no sense whatsoever. Like, how can you be like one of the fastest cars top end? You have
well, I guess
fuel mileage, and then the Subaru's the opposite. It's got the worst fuel mileage. It's
maybe it's just got super low drag. Yeah. They modeled it in somehow.
Yeah, that's possible. That might actually be possible because the VGT is meant to be like a super slipstreamy car, and it only has like 542 horsepower or something like that. So yeah, maybe that's why. And I think the Subaru does it does feel like it has quite a bit of downforce. Like it might have the most downforce, or it feels like it has the most downforce in Group 3. That might be why, but whatever. Toyota, you got Didiko. According to what I have, Didiko, CSA, you got Fire. We got that going to be Nissan, let's go Toyota, Manu Rodri, Akane in Asia, got Natty Gaines, who actually picked the FT1, interestingly enough. Art Lane. Yeah, because Toyota, I'm not sure, again, I think I mentioned it earlier, I still don't think it'll allow you to pick the new Group 4 Toyota.
Right.
But everything I've heard, it's a terrible car anyway, so it's irrelevant. 86 is a car that, again, back to the slipstream. It definitely doesn't need slipstream to do well, but if you can get it, you're going to be in a good spot. It probably will do well in the if tire shredding becomes a thing again. 86 is going to become a lot more attractive. It's going to be a much better car. I don't know about fuel mileage in that car, though. I can't remember. Group 3, you got the Supra, and you get a choice. You get the Supra, and you have the FT1. And I think in just about every case, I think you'd rather have the Supra, just because it's pretty fast. I think it's almost GTR, Group 3 GTR fast. And it's got, I don't know about its fuel mileage. I always get this confused. I think it's, like, just the way you have to shift that car, I think it's pretty good in fuel mileage, but if you really have to short shift, it's not good. I think Lamb would be able to explain that one. I forget how that goes exactly, because I do remember, like, part of the reason why Toyota won at finals was because it's just crazy good on fuel saving when the way you normally shift it, but then if you have to save anymore, it's really terrible. And it just so happens that it fit the Supra, and so it did really well. But I think in most cases, you always want the Supra over the FT1. I think the only thing the FT1 has is I think it's a better handling car, but I don't think it's good enough to really offset. I think FT1's worse on fuel, or I think it's a little bit better on fuel. But yeah, otherwise it's. Again, there might be something about the FT1 that people don't know about yet, and so it's one of those things that maybe.
I think isn't the FT1 better at the highway, the Shuto Expressway races?
I don't recall. Honestly, I don't. Yeah, I honestly don't recall. Cause my understanding, like every time I've seen an FT1 and a Supra, there's always been a Supra that is better than the FT1. And I think I even tried it like a Nations combo. I was trying both the Supra and the FT1, and my lap times were always better than the Supra. So I think in most cases you'll want the Supra, unless again you're not really caring about qualifying. Just I think for some people, I think the Supra is a little bit more difficult to drive than the FT1. I think the FT1 is a little bit more forgiving, but last time that I drove, I think the FT1 was like easier to drive, but then for raw pace, I think you want the Supra in most cases. So that kind of leaves us to the last menu, VW, which isn't discussed
the
much.
Ghost Town.
Which we got Alex Sony, but he actually picked the VGT Group 3 car over the Beetle. But we got Morgan in Asia that picked the Beetle. So a couple of people mentioned that they think the Scirocco is more viable now because it did get the power bump. Although I don't know how I feel about that, because I think the power bump does make it go faster, but I think the problem is that you're adding more power to an FF car. So I haven't had a chance to really test it out yet, but I actually, I think in the long run it ends up being worse because now it has more power, which means you're shooting up the front tires more, because you get more torque steer because they're more, it's. I don't know how I feel about that. I actually feel like they should have just maybe like cut the power, like cut the weight or something, rather than just add more power. But that's just me.
Yeah.
I mean, to my recollection, I think like the Scirocco's always been like the best FF car in terms of tire wear. But even then, it's like in most situations, I don't think it was that fast anyway. Like it wasn't overly fast. And so again, I think it's another situation where you got to rely everything on Group 3, which I know like a lot of people like I think like for example at Brands Hatch, the Beetle became like really popular. I think it became the meta in certain situations.
Yeah.
Oh, Bathurst was another example where a lot of people were picking the Beetle.
Well, I remember it being good at Dragon Trail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are like underestimating how good that Beetle can be at a lot of combinations. Personally, however, I will say I hate that thing. I think that's like the anti-GTR for me. Like I get the GTR, well, no one else can, but then the Beetle's like everyone else seems to find tons of speed in the Beetle, and I just hate. I hate that bloody thing. I just cannot get any. I tried it at Brands Hatch at one time. I ended up using the GTR. I was like, I hate this stupid car. Why am I using a car that I hate? Like, it almost faster than the GTR, and I think people were surprised. How do you get speed on the GTR? Well, I just like the GTR. I hate the Beetle. I tried the Beetle. I think the Beetle is also, my understanding is that it's pretty good. Like, fuel saving pace is actually pretty good as well. So it's got that going for it as well. And I think the tire wear is not too bad. So, if you're good with the Beetle, then, it might be a long shot because again you can rely everything on Group 3, but Beetle will be certainly a car to at least test out to see if it's a viable car. I think it might be. I don't know about the VGT though because I haven't driven the VGT since.
I think that one's good on fuel, isn't it?
Yes, I do recall that it was pretty good on fuel. It was okay. You know how long ago it was? It was before. This was when we had regional finals for FIA. That long ago, when we were trying out cars for Dragon Trail for the regional event in Las Vegas. And I recall I had the VGT on my. I had both VGTs. I had both the Pug VGT and the Volkswagen VGT. Wait. Did I end up picking? I think I ended up picking the Volkswagen.
The Volkswagen, yeah.
I did pick the Volkswagen. Okay, that's why I remember because I drove that car thinking it wasn't that bad of a car, and it does have the fuel. To my recollection, it still has the fuel saving. It also has the weird gearbox to where I think you basically like. You had to upshift it like it's kind of like with the McLaren. Like you have to the Group 4 McLaren. Where you have to upshift it between 25 to 60 to 75% of the bar. but it also meant that you could basically you can basically pick your own gear through the corner. So if you're kind of that type of person, then the VGT is. I don't know. Like I know that Rick at I think it was Rick at EMEA was using it to good effect in season 1, but I think ever since then it's just kind of fallen off the radar. I'm not even sure if it's that good anymore. I think I tried it a month or two ago, and I don't think it's, at least for me. Like I recall like a one time I think it had a pretty good pace. Like it was like a sleeper car, kind of like the Beetle, but I'm not sure about now. Maybe Alex Oni found something in the VGT that he likes, and that's why he picked it. But yeah, I honestly don't know where that VGT would be good at. It might be kind of. It might have top end as well. And that might be the other thing. I want to say maybe it's kind of like it's kind of like the Puck VGT, but it's not as good. But again,
Right.
it's honestly it's a car I haven't driven in a long time, and so I don't know how it compares now to other cars. So that's a more of a try it and see if it works for you. But
Yeah, I can't even recall whether it was hit with some BOP stuff lately or not.
I don't think it has been.
Seems to be one of those cars that just stays relatively untouched by the adjustment. Devil.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it hasn't been touched in a long
I
time.
know for sure the Hyundai hasn't. I think both of them. I think maybe the Group 4 got a touch of something one time.
Yeah, the Group 4 did get it did get more weight in the last update.
Oh yeah, and then but the Group 3 I don't think it's been touched at all. It's crazy.
No. Well, yeah, like I said, that's one of the shockers for me is that they didn't. I thought for certain they were gonna do, because they did all these changes to Group 4. I thought they were gonna also do one for Group 3 just to get everything caught up right before the season started.
dude.
But that didn't happen. Well, but again, that could still happen. So that's
Could
kind
right
of
before
the
second
risk.
stage or something like that.
Yeah, so that's kind of the risk that this. It's kind of the downside. 'Cause PD did do a BOP change between stage 1 and stage 2, and that did affect the balance of certain manufacturers. So it's one of those, that could happen, and then the car that was good is suddenly terrible. Which I know anyone that had the Lexus the first season, would remember. Like it got a 1% power nerf, and I think that killed the Group 3 cars.
Yeah.
Like pretty much anyone that remembers how it used to be before and after, I think pretty much everyone agrees that killed the car. Well, some other cars, the 1% power nerf, like, oh, it didn't do nothing. Like maybe I lost maybe a tenth, but yeah, it's kind of weird. Like some cars, like you do a minor change, it doesn't really affect it that much. In other cars, like a small change, it just completely ruins the balance of the car. So you always got to keep that in mind.
Yeah. It's been a great review of all the cars all the manufacturer picks that we've seen so far. There's definitely more that are incoming. We have way more to cover in the next couple days. We'll be coming at you again with another live stream discussion and podcasting, stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed it. I really feel lucky we're able to get you in here, Richard, to talk and give your knowledge and imparting your wisdom on everything that you're seeing happening out there. The analysis is really useful and super entertaining to think about. Your take is always really a good one to consider. So I hope you have fun.
And it really at the end of the day, it's just my take, and you're free, if you're free to go out and test out things on your own, because what may work for like the top guys, it might not work out, if you're in the lower split. And so it's kind of I think at the end of the day, like, especially if you're not going to be competing for a spot, you don't feel like you're going to be competing for a spot, then since it's just so many rounds, like, it's kind of like more like, what do you want to get out of the season? Like, do you want to do all the combos, or you just want to be like doing a few of them, but be really good at them? And so I think that should play the biggest factor to your decision. But again, that's your call, not mine to make. So if you're just you just want to have the best car. You know, I think a lot of people go out there like, what's the best car? Well, it depends. I hate to put it out there, but it depends because, again, like for me, like I love the Group 3 GTR, but I know a lot of people just can't get any speed out of it, and so it's the best car for me, but it's not the best car for you.
Exactly. And it comes down to your style and how you are able to be effective with different cars. There's some cases where people may dismiss a car because it may have some image in, among the player base that a certain car may seem like, oh, it's just average. Maybe you should go for a better one. Um, you may do better with that car that's supposedly average than picking a so-called strong choice. You just go with what makes you happy. A good thing to go by in life in general, really. But yeah, thanks so much for joining us for this long stream. It's been fun. The crowd in the chat has been pretty consistent, so we really appreciate that. Where can everyone look you up, Richard, if they want to find out more of your content and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I do have a YouTube channel. Although I have been considering switching over to Twitch, just because I don't know, Titch did it, and it seems to be working for him. And there's some bugginess with Twitch, but get a phone. Yeah, I mean it's under Outlawquadrant. If you look up on YouTube, I'm pretty easy to find there. So I try to put up videos from time to time. Recently, I've kind of been like starting to put meme videos out there. I don't know why. Maybe just because I find them entertaining. So I've been doing a little bit of that. Again, I do have a Twitch channel which I haven't used in a while, but I'll see if I can get that up and running. I don't have a Twitter yet. I'm not sure I'll ever get a Twitter, just because it's one of those things like I don't think that many good things come out of Twitter, so it's like I don't feel like getting one. But I do kind of miss out on all of the things, so maybe I'll get one at some point.
Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there. Practice social distancing if you can. And I'll say good night for Tristan as well. We can catch him at Roadbeef on the Instagram, and you can catch myself obviously on this YouTube channel you're currently watching this through. Or if you're on the podcast listening to this, then you can find me on just by typing Wardez into YouTube or Google. GT Planet also has all of that. And again, one more time for those that are wanting to be referencing the excellent spreadsheet that Outlaw and some other community members are updating, go to bit.ly/outlaw. Damn, was it list? I forgot what it was.
Yeah, I forget what it was too.
Yeah, I have it right here. It is Outlaw List, yeah, all lowercase, Outlaw List. And you'll get access to that spreadsheet, or you can just send them a PSN message or whatever, and we'll get it to you. But I hope you had a good time. Hope it was a worthwhile investment in your time, and we'll be hanging around with you guys again soon. So have a good night.
Adios.